Let me guess, you've spent an entire night cramming for a big exam, you feel like you've got it down, and then you sit down to take the test, and your brain goes completely blank. It is one of the most frustrating feelings in the world. But here's the thing, the problem isn't your memory, the problem is your method. And today, we're gonna fix it. We're giving your brain a much-needed software upgrade.
Oh yeah, we've all been there, right? You get all the fancy highlighters, you meticulously color code every single chapter, and your textbook ends up looking like a piece of modern art. And you feel so productive doing it. But when it's time to actually use that information, poof, it's just gone. This whole experience is so common, but it's built on a massive misunderstanding of how our brains are actually wired to learn.
So first things first, you have to stop telling yourself you have a bad memory. You don't. You're just running outdated mental software. Seriously, the methods most of us were taught in school, rereading, highlighting, just passively listening, they are incredibly inefficient. So today, we're going to uninstall that old, buggy program and give your brain a massive upgrade. Now, before we can install that new software, we have to get rid of the old one. And the biggest virus infecting our learning system is something called the illusion of competence. This is the #1 reason why all that highlighting and rereading feels so good, but gives you such terrible results. And here's how that illusion works. It's actually super sneaky. When you reread a chapter, your brain sees the words and goes, "Oh yeah, I know this. I recognize that paragraph." And that feeling of familiarity, it's really comforting. It tricks you, it fools you into thinking you've mastered the material. But here's the catch. Recognition is not the same as recall. You aren't actually learning the material. You're just getting really good at recognizing it. And this chart just shows you how devastating that illusion is. The numbers are just shocking. After only 1 day of passively reviewing something, you've already forgotten half of it. But look at day 2. Your retention absolutely plummets to under 20%. Think about that. All those hours you spent highlighting for less than a fifth of the information. That is an insane waste of your time and effort. So, why does this happen? It happens because your brain is not a hard drive. It's not designed to be a passive storage unit. It's built to be an efficiency machine. Your brain is constantly getting bombarded with information, and its default setting to save energy is to delete almost everything. It basically acts like a spam filter, and it's always asking one simple question. Is this information being actively used? And if the answer is no, it gets marked as junk and sent straight to the trash. Passive highlighting is like letting the most important email of your life rot in the spam folder. So how do we mark our information as important? How do we tell that spam filter in our brain, hey, save this is a keeper? Well, we do that by shifting our whole approach from being a passive collector of information to an active creator of knowledge. And our first 2 neurohacks to do this are ActiveRecall and mental compression. Okay, this right here, the output override, is a total game changer. Instead of just letting information wash over you, you're going to force your brain to work for it. After you read a section of a chapter, you physically close the book, shut the laptop, and then, from scratch, you write down everything you can possibly remember. And listen, it's going to feel hard. You're going to struggle. But that struggle, that's the entire point. That effort is what sends a massive signal to your brain that says, this is important. It's basically like lifting weights for your neurons. Okay. Now, once you've pulled that information out of your brain, you have to fight the urge to create this massive, sprawling document of notes. You know what I'm talking about. We've all taken 10 pages of notes for a single chapter that deep down we know we are never, ever going to read again. That's not learning. That's just a more organized way of hoarding information. The solution is what we call mental compression. You have to force your brain to boil everything down to its absolute essence. So after you do your active recall, you challenge yourself. Can you summarize that entire section into just 3 simple sentences? This forces you to figure out what the most critical ideas are, and, more importantly, how they connect to each other. And then you take it one level deeper. Can you compress that entire chapter, all of its core concepts, onto a single tiny sticky note? This is the ultimate test, because if you can't explain a really complex idea in a simple, tiny phrase, it's a huge sign that you don't really understand it yet. It's not just a study trick, it's a test of true comprehension. Okay, so you've recalled the info and you've compressed it. You are already miles ahead of where you were. But now, we're going to make that knowledge completely bulletproof. We are going to find every single hidden weakness in your understanding and then wire that information directly into your nervous system. This is called the Feynman protocol, and it is brutally effective. The rule is super simple. You have to explain the concept out loud, using the simplest language you can as if you were trying to teach it to a 5-year-old. No jargon, no complicated vocabulary, just simple analogies and clear words. You know, studying silently is dangerous because it's really easy for your brain to lie to you. But speaking it aloud, that forces you to be honest. And here's the most brilliant part of this whole thing. The technique has a built-in diagnostic tool. As you're explaining the concept out loud, you will inevitably stumble. You'll pause, you'll say you'll get stuck, and that awkward pause, that is pure gold. It's literally your brain sending up a flare, showing you the exact spot where your understanding breaks down. That's your signal to go back to the book, fix that one specific bottleneck, and then try explaining it again until it's perfectly smooth. Finally, to lock this stuff in forever, you use sensory layering. Your brain doesn't remember boring blocks of text. It remembers images, emotions, and actions. So as you're studying, you have to engage as many senses as possible. Say it out loud. That engages your auditory system. Write it down in your own words. That engages your motor system. And most importantly, draw it. Seriously, if you're studying a molecule, don't just write its name. Draw it as a WWE wrestler with a crazy personality. By layering these visual, auditory, and motor memories all at once, you're not just storing knowledge anymore, you are literally wiring it into your nervous system. When you get down to it, all of these techniques, active recall, compression, the Feynman method, they're more than just study tips. When you apply them consistently, it leads to a fundamental shift in your identity. And that is the final and most important step of all. See, your identity is what drives your behavior. If you keep seeing yourself as someone with a bad memory, you'll just keep falling back into those old passive habits. You have to change the story you tell yourself. You are not a passive bucket for facts. You are a knowledge architect, someone who is actively designing and building understanding in your own mind. You are coding your brain for elite performance. These methods, they give you admin access to your own brain. You are no longer locked out by frustrating, broken techniques. You now have the tools, the admin password, to learn anything more effectively and more efficiently than ever before. So the only question left is, what are you going to build? What will you learn? The choice is all yours.